There'll be times working on steep snow slopes when a bucket seat alone will be enough to manage somebody coming up as a second. But if for whatever reason you decide that your bucket seat isn't enough, or you aren't comfortable with just bringing somebody up solely in a bucket seat, then using a buried axe or a reinforced axe for your bucket seat is often a good thing to do, just to help back up your anchor situation. To create that buried axe, initially you'll want to dig out your bucket seat, and that'll give you your template to work from. So you'll have a bucket seat already dug, and from your bucket seat you can then step into it, reach up the slope, scribe a line down the slope into the middle, centre, back of your bucket seat, and that again gives you a template to work with for when you ascend the slope and start digging out the slot to drop your axe into. When it comes to measuring the distance of where to bury your axe behind your bucket seat, in hard snow you can certainly be a bit closer to your bucket seat. In softer snow you definitely want to be further away. In very soft snow I'd be stood in my bucket seat with my axe as far out as I possibly can, just holding the spike of it, reaching all the way up the slope and scribing a line down into the bucket seat. So if in doubt, go further up the slope than you think you may need to. When it comes to actually burying the axe into the snow, you need to make sure that you're operating from the sort of line that you've already cut here as the centre point of your slot or your letterbox. You need obviously to dig your slot wider than your actual axe is, so you've got room to manoeuvre it and room to bury it in. When it comes to actually burying the axe or digging out the slot, you need to go a little bit wider than the axe is itself, just so you've got room to keep digging. Now remember, this snow up here has no importance as to the strength of the buried axe. It's all about this snow below it. So if the snow was soft, you want to be really careful that you don't disturb any of this snow below. Keep yourself well out to the side and keep your hands and your feet away from this area of snow down here. When it comes to digging the slot, again, the first cut that I'll make will always be closer to me, and then I'll just cut away from myself, opening up that slot. And again, making the deepest hole closest to you allows you to keep pulling the axe through into a space and clearing it quite wide. I'll just widen it up a wee bit here and take it a bit deeper. Finished letterbox wants to be really neat and tidy. It wants to be kind of well dug and finished off with a really good sort of clean area. The front face of your letterbox wants to be vertical in the snow rather than perpendicular like the front face of your bucket seat. So this needs to be nice and vertical. Your axe needs to be fully submerged into the snow, so no bit sticking out, because it's the surface area of the axe pulling against that front face of the snow that creates the strength of your anchor. As you can see here, the whole line of the axe here will be pulling flush against the front face here. The axe is fully buried with the pick dug in at a slight angle down the hill, and also the base of the axe, or the underside of the axe, is lying flush with the bottom of the letterbox. I now need to find or work out the point to attach my sling to, and I'll literally just find the balance point of the axe, and I'll maybe take it slightly forward of the balance point. So for this, around the M of the O of this axe. Once I work out that point and I know where it lies in the snow, that should lie nicely in line with the centre line that I originally drew up the slope. We said earlier we want to disturb this area of snow as little as possible, because this creates a strength within the anchor. So if I was to dig out the slot that the sling would lie in with my adze, it would create a very wide slot and affect the strength of the snowpack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the spike of my axe, and with this firm snow I'm literally going to have to score a groove that my sling can lie in. It's really important that you take the groove of your sling slot all the way down to the base level or the floor of your letterbox for your axe. So when and pressure is put on the sling, it'll pull the axe into the snowpack, and there's no way if the sling rose up it would pull your axe up as well. Now that we've created the foundations for our buried axe or a reinforced axe for our bucket seat, we now need to set it all up to allow us to be able to tie into it. We've worked out the balance point of the axe and where we need to attach our sling. We now have our sling, which is an 8-foot sling with a screw gate carabiner on the end of it. And what I need to do is to tie a clove hitch that I'm then going to thread the shaft of the axe into. So I'm going to create one loop and then another loop, swap one behind the other. That gives me my clove hitch, which I'll then insert the axe through, bring it up to around the point of my balance pointer just forward. But rather than leaving the tails of the clove hitch pulling forward, I'm going to flip the tail and put the knot to the back. And again, bringing it to that point that I wanted to put my sling to. And this now means that both tails are pulling from behind the axe, and when it pulls forward it's actually pulling the knot tight onto the axe, which keeps it well seated in place. Once I've got my sling on the perfect point of the axe that I wanted it, I'm going to drop the sling into the slot. I'm going to bury my axe back in, making sure it's all facing in the right direction, the pick slightly downhill, the surface area of the axe is pulling hard against the front face, and my sling is nicely in place. And with a bit of a pull, I can just see how well it's seated there, and it's sat very well. You're now ready to tie yourself in. To tie yourself in, you're already tied into the rope, be it on your harness or just be it around your waist. You just want to pop the rope in through your screw gate carabiner. With me kneeling in my bucket seat and leaning into the back wall, all I need to do is just take the rope, feed it through my rope loop that's around me, and then just tie an overhand over both strands of the rope, and then pull that tail back through on itself. And with that overhand tied over both of these strands of rope and then locked nicely into position, and I've been leaning well enough against the back of the wall of my bucket seat, all I should then need to do is swivel around in the rope, sit down, and I should be nice and tight. So with myself now tied into my buried axe and the anchoring rope from my buried axe now centralised or slightly offset on my live rope side, I'm now ready to belay the person up from below.